staying up so late to be on my show, which is great. We've had a fabulous conversation about
pretty much everything.
Everything you can possibly think about. It's been fabulous. We've talked about sport, we've talked about advertising, we've talked about different ways of advertising, how it's subliminal, how it plays to our emotions, and it's visual to the mind. When you hear an advertisement, you can visualize it. And it depends on who you are and what you're listening for. We haven't mentioned any shoe ads at the moment, but let's talk about a shoe ad. You've said before about shoe ads for.
Well, one of the opportunities available, at least in this country, I think you guys are more online listening is done more through Spotify than Pandora here in the US. We also have a service called Pandora. And one of the things that they tout is that when you advertise with them, you also get a web banner that will appear not just during the commercial as it's on Pandora, but will appear for the next 4 or 5 days around your browsing. And I was illustrating this to one customer once, and she said, "Oh, you mean like I was looking for shoes?" You mentioned shoes.
Mhm.
She actually was looking for shoes, and she had done some research online for shoes, and she noticed that all the ads in everywhere she went online were now suddenly about shoes. And that's because you mentioned the algorithms in Facebook changing, the algorithms in a lot of different search engines are changing, especially with the European rules now about cookies on websites and how they have to be basically removed. You either have to give permission or anyway, there's a bunch of different changes about that.
Oh, well, I'd say
what-
no to all of them, but sometimes they don't allow you to say no.
That's true.
You've got to accept
And
them.
that's the reason with cookies and the next generation of, I'll call them cookies, but it's something different and I can't remember the name right now. But that's the kind of information that is in your computer all the time. And a lot of times through your smartphone or your smartwatch, even, you can be talking about something and Siri or Alexa, I guess, is always listening because they're listening for the keyword. They're listening for their name. So they're always hearing you. And if you start talking about, say, shoes to somebody, you may find that your ads, when you go back online, are all about shoes because they heard you talking and they suddenly go, "Oh, this could be a customer. Let's deliver them shoe ads."
It's interesting because sometimes Siri just pops up and says, "I don't understand what you've said." When you've not even asked Siri for anything, and then they come in the background, all of a sudden, Siri's saying something to you as if to say, "I don't understand what you've said."
Right. That's because they're always listening. They have to always be paying attention for that keyword.
Oh,
And sometimes they hear it wrong.
well, or they hear it wrong. It's interesting because, Alexa and Siri, one's different, they're different, but they're the same. And you walk through shopping centers and you've got your Bluetooth on and there's all this stuff going on in the shopping center that's honing in onto either your smartwatch or your phone without you
Yeah.
even knowing it.
Yeah. They're scanning off those. And oftentimes, as you're close to a business, they can deliver you some sort of enticement to come in for a free cup of coffee, just because you happen to be walking by. This is the technology that exists today.
It's pretty scary stuff. And I mean, you're in your home and you have the internet and the waves because it's all Wi-Fi. Not a lot of people have connections, that you plug in anymore. It's Wi-Fi, so it goes right through the house and you can click your blinds and they all go up and down or shut or whatever, and you can have your lights on, or you can dim your lights, or you can have them set for turning on at this time and that time. There's all these airwaves, all these things going on in your home, which are extremely unhealthy to start with.
Yeah.
It's
Radio not being one of them.
Yeah, no.
Because radio's waves too. It's just,
Oh
I mean to throw you off for anything.
my God.
But no,
Oh,
radio is perfectly safe. It's fine.
but,
Unless you're holding it while standing in a puddle of water. I wouldn't advise that.
oh no, absolutely not. But it's, your microwave, your induction cooktop, it's all radioactive. Some people don't think about that when they've got an induction cooktop. Love induction, but it is like a microwave. Quite interesting. All this radioactive stuff going through your house, and Google's listening to you or whatever. I know some people that would not have Google or anything like that in their home.
Yeah, we did, and we got rid of it because we didn't like the idea of people. One, I'd rather we didn't have neighbors, and that's not that I don't like the neighbors. It's that I would like to have, 10 acres of nobody around me, just because I like peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And then I can talk to my family without worrying about being overheard by the neighbors.
Yeah.
And it's a similar situation with Siri or Alexa. It's like they're your neighbor and they're always listening. And I understand there's ways you can go in and erase all that stuff, but I'd rather it never got recorded in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. But we, as a modern society, I suppose, we don't even consider it, do we? Don't consider any of that sort of stuff. The more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, and I think, you don't have any privacy in your own home.
Yeah, and we tend to think of there being some security in the anonymity of how many people this is happening to, that how are they going to zero in on us? But it happens to somebody, so it can happen to anybody.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, now we've got about 10 minutes to go, Neil, and let's talk a little bit more about you and advertising and the benefits for anyone who's thinking about advertising on radio.
The benefits of advertising on radio is you can be whatever you want to be. You're looking, as a business owner, you're looking at your business the way it is. That doesn't have to be the way it's portrayed. It can be portrayed any way. We mentioned a diner on the corner. You can make it seem like the 80s cafe from Back to the Future if you want. You can make it feel like a diner in Greece or something, or a typical New York style diner, or anything you want. You can paint an image with sound and words and create that image in people's heads. The risk is that you don't want to, as we've talked about before, make it so grandiose that people come in and they're suddenly disappointed. We want to try and still keep it real, keep it relatable, and it's based on emotion. That combination right there can really grow a business's bottom line if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone a little bit. And that's what it takes sometimes, and find a group of real radio professionals that are trained to create these kind of images. And they might be at your local station, they might be at an advertising agency, and there are other options as well. But you have to find people that understand the way radio can work and create these images to really move people to action. And that's the goal, is to move people to action, to have them check out your website, have them call you, or better still, stop in your store. Those are the things that can be done with the power of radio, because it is all about creating images, and just make sure they're faithful and not something grandiose to disappoint people, as we talked about with reading a book and versus seeing a movie. Sometimes people are disappointed by the movie because it wasn't what they saw when they read it. Well, we don't want to create these images in people's minds with these radio ads that they're disappointed when they come into the store.
Or wherever it might be. It's interesting to really think about how you want to be perceived or portrayed so that people want to come and visit whatever business that you have, whether it be online or whether it be a physical business, whatever it is. You want, and language is a really important part of advertising, the words that are used, and then it's also the tonality of it, the way it's said, and how I could interpret something you say in a totally different way to what you've said it, depending on the frame of mind I'm in as well. So it's, as you say, it's all emotional. If I'm feeling a bit and you say something that's really good, I'm thinking, I don't think that. So it is an emotion that we're playing with, isn't it?
Yeah, and emotion doesn't have to be, you're right about words and how it's spoken, but it can also be about the sounds in the background and the music as well, because we can be talking about a hamburger chain and playing a really heavy guitar riff, and those to me don't seem like they go well together, because you're trying to induce somebody to want to visit the hamburger chain, and you're playing something that's rough and grating as some heavy metal guitar can be, that doesn't entice people to go in to buy a hamburger, or visit an art museum or whatever it turns out to be.
Because you want to sit down and relax and enjoy what you're eating, and you don't want all this loud music playing, that sort of thing. Yeah. What else can you tell me about what you do when you're doing voiceovers? How many times a day would you change your voice to do an ad or different ads?
Generally, I'm going to try and keep to being authentic, like I would want to be on the air. I'm not going to try and change my voice too much unless they need some sort of an accent and you need to talk in a different tone. Then you can try and do something like that. There are times when you're doing a conversation and you're talking to yourself, but you change the pitch and the tone a little bit between the two characters so that it sounds like two different people. That can happen, but again, the conversation still has to be authentic. So you mentioned voiceover. Yeah, there's a lot more to voiceover too than just doing commercials for radio and television. There's on hold messaging. A couple of our the talent that I regularly deal with do a lot of voiceovers for video games, and are really creative at it. This one gentleman, he's incredibly talented, and really can make you see things. One of the parts of an ad I've heard from him is about having a shark swimming in his living room.
Oh, okay.
And with his delivery of trying to be in the moment, and you can hear a newspaper slap down on something, like, and he's at the point he's saying, "Down, Bruce, down," and you hear water splashing and the newspaper slap on, you feel like it's the shark's head. It creates the image, and it's a very creative way to do things. So there's a lot of opportunities like that. So sometimes it's not just straight announcer, it's being a different character, as maybe a cartoon or something like that, or just creating a mood with the way you speak, like you are in a moment, screaming down a roller coaster, or as I mentioned with the guy creating a shark in his living room. Obviously there was no shark in his living room. That would create way too much water and it'd never get out of the carpet. But it sounded like it. And as with we talked about the bananas,
Yeah.
or the rabbits, you create this image in people's minds. And we're back to the girl on a swing. And you mentioned you didn't know what other images people came up with. I used that example once in a sales seminar at a radio station. and 10 heads went down. I said, write down what she's wearing, and 10 heads went down to write down what she was wearing on a piece of paper, and one didn't. And I asked, I said, Jim, why aren't you writing down? He said, because she's naked.
Oh,
And I said, well, then the girl you saw was considerably older than the one I was thinking of, because again, I was thinking of somewhat about the age you described, Faye. That would not, for his situation, that would not have worked. But again, it was a perfect demonstration of each person sees something different.
and
from
totally.
just a few words.
And words, you know, if as a small word with a big meaning, if only I'd done this, or whatever it might be. But it's like actors who do voiceovers for characters, cartoon characters and things like that. They must have so much fun doing that sort of thing. But you'd have to be in the right state of mind and everything to be able to bring that character to life, like the fellow with the shark in the living room, bringing things to life, and us imagining that, which is not real, but we still, they're so talented that they can do that, make us see it.
You talked about with its voice and inflection and those kind of things that can really make something stand out. And that's, you talked to about before, how do you pick the right talent? From what you're trying to convey, you can find the right voice talent that will make that work out for you. And there are tons of voice actors out there ready to do what you're looking for.
It's interesting, isn't it? Now, Neil, how can they get in contact with you?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is through my website. I mentioned everybody has a website. I do as well. It's called voicecreative.com, VOICECRETIAIV. Wait, I screwed that up. Just
Voice Creative.
I'm even looking at it on the screen. Voicecreative.com.
Yes, voicecreative.com, but don't call him or don't connect with him while he's after the show, he's going to sleep, because it's 2 a.m. in the morning for him. Thank you, Neil, so much for spending time with me. I've really loved it. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it and learned something. And those businesses out there, if you've been listening and you want to advertise, have a conversation with whomever puts adverts together and really think about what you want to portray to the listeners. Thank you, Neil. It's been fabulous. I'm Faye Waterman. This has been a conversation with Faye. It is Monday Mash after the news with Sam, and I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have fun, keep safe, and bye for now. How was that? Hang on, I'm going to